Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
You know that feeling, right?
Mm.
Browser's got like a gazillion tabs open.
Yeah.
Your read later list is endless.
Yeah.
And your head's just swimming with facts and ideas.
Mm-hmm. Information overload.
Totally. We're drowning in information, but it feels like we're collecting it. Like squirrels with nuts, but not actually using it much.
Right.
So today, we're diving into something our sources highlight as, well, a pretty profound truth. Knowledge without action. It's kind of useless.
It really is.
And this isn't just like some philosophical thought bubble. It's real. It shapes success, innovation, even how societies move forward.
Exactly.
Our mission here is to explore how turning that info into action creates real, lasting value. And believe me, the material we've looked at has some genuinely surprising examples of this.
And that's precisely what we need to unpack, isn't it? The real value, the currency of knowledge, isn't just getting it, it's applying it. It's what drives growth. Yeah. We always say knowledge is power. But our sources are pretty clear. It's applied knowledge that actually solves problems, that makes things better. So this deep dive hopefully will give you, our listener, some solid insights into making that shift from just knowing to actively doing, building that mindset for strategic application.
Okay, let's get into it then. The sources lay out this almost uncomfortable idea. Just understanding isn't enough. You have to act.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this throughout history, right? Amazing ideas pop up all the time, but they only make waves when someone actually does something with them.
That's the key.
The material really hammers home that knowledge. Just sitting there, it's dormant, it's potential energy, maybe.
Yeah, potential energy is a good way to put it.
The sources use this metaphor, knowledge, as a vast set of tools in a box. It's vivid, yeah.
It is.
But do they talk about like how we pick the right tool? Or if some are better than others sometimes?
Oh, absolutely. It dives right into that. Think about it like this. You could own the fanciest hammer, the sharpest saw, the most high-tech wrench available.
But if they just sit there in the box, looking pretty, well, you're not building a house, you're not fixing an engine, you're certainly not creating art.
Right. Makes sense.
Their value, their whole point, is in being used for a specific job. And this is where the sources bring up a really fascinating historical case study.
Oh.
Yeah, there was this economic model from the late 70s, pretty much dismissed by the big economies as, too theoretical, too academic.
Okay, I think another one.
Right. But decades later, this small nation facing total financial collapse actually tried a version of it, modified it, but applied it.
Yeah.
The result wasn't just recovery. It was this surprising, sustained economic boom that nobody predicted. It really showed the theory wasn't useless because it was bad, but because nobody used it. And it's the same on a smaller scale, like a new sales technique. It sounds great, but it's useless until you actually try it out, probably awkwardly at first, with real people. That's a brilliant example. It really does flip the script on what we think is valuable. Okay, so knowledge is the toolbox. Staying in the box is, well, a dead end.
Pretty much.
So how do we actually get good at using the tools? The sources point to skills and competencies as the bridge. What does that mean, practically?
Precisely. That's the bridge. Think about a doctor.
Oh, okay.
They don't just memorize anatomy charts. They spend years in training developing the skill to diagnose tricky conditions, the competence to operate under intense pressure.
Right, the hands-on part.
Exactly. Or a programmer. Knowing coding languages is one thing, but being able to debug complex problems, to actually build software that works and scales, that's competence.
Got it.
And this highlights something critical from the research. Good education, good training isn't just about pouring in information. It has to focus on building the capacity to apply it through practice, through experimenting, even through, making mistakes and learning from them.
Trial and error, yeah.
That's where true mastery comes from, that back and forth between knowing and doing.
Okay, so building on that, applying knowledge, our sources say this massively impacts informed decision-making. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, especially when things are complex. How does using knowledge actually lead to better choices?
Well, it's not just about having more data points.
Right.
The research shows it's about having the right information structured well and, crucially, having the ability to analyze it for a specific goal.
Okay.
Our sources mention some frameworks like the Cinefin framework or using decision trees, When people actively applied these tools in high-stakes situations, their success rates went up significantly.
Because it forced a structure, not just gut feeling.
Exactly. It forced a structured application of knowledge. And this works on every level: your personal finances, your career moves, a business deciding on market strategy or investments, even governments figuring out public policy or where to put resources.
Right.
In all these cases, knowledge isn't the end goal. It's the means to cut through the fog, navigate the uncertainty, and hopefully pick the best path forward.
So knowledge as a lever for clarity. I like that. And this connects, I assume, straight into problem solving and innovation.
Directly. Applied knowledge is basically the engine for both. Think about the big challenges our sources mentioned: disease, poverty, climate change.
Yeah, the huge ones.
We don't solve those just by understanding why they happen. We need knowledge turned into real solutions: new medicines, better systems, cleaner tech.
Right. Actionable stuff.
Exactly. And innovation itself, the sources often define it not as some magic light bulb moment, but as the creative, often step-by-step application of knowledge, old or new, to make something genuinely new and useful.
It's the, what if we tried this, plus the, okay, how do we actually build it?
You got it. That's the essence of it.
Okay, but here's the thing. If this is all so obvious, use your knowledge. Why doesn't it happen more often? Our sources dig into the challenges, right? What stops knowledge from actually being applied?
Yeah, there are some significant hurdles.
One big one they highlight is the breach between academia and industry. That gap where what's taught in schools doesn't always match up with what's needed on the job.
That's a persistent one. And then there's something very human: the fear of failure.
Yes.
Applying knowledge means experimenting, stepping out there, and maybe messing up.
Which nobody likes.
Right. And the sources stress how much this fear can just shut things down. It stops people from trying new ideas, from pursuing something truly innovative. It's like having all the ingredients, but being afraid to bake the cake.
That's so relatable, isn't it? And related maybe is inertia and resistance to change.
Oh, definitely.
Where people or whole organizations just stick with the old ways, even when there's clear knowledge showing better, faster, cheaper methods.
It's often just easier, isn't it? The path of least resistance.
Yeah. If it ain't broke.
Yeah.
Even if it's inefficient.
Exactly. And add to that, in our digital world, information saturation.
Right. Too much information.
Way too much. We have access to everything instantly. But it can lead to this weird paralysis by analysis.
Spend all your time reading, none of it doing.
Precisely. You're so busy absorbing data, you never get around to acting on it. And if you think about the big picture, that's a major modern problem for anyone trying to be effective. How do you switch from consume mode to create mode?
That's a great question. And finally, the sources flag the lack of soft skills. This one's maybe underestimated.
I think so, because you can have all the technical knowledge in the world, but if you can't communicate it, lead a team to implement it, work with others, solve problems creatively on the fly, that knowledge stays locked up.
Right. The hard skills need the soft skills to actually make an impact.
Exactly. They're often not taught together, and that creates a real bottleneck for action.
So wrapping this up then, as we look back over this deep dive, the core message from all the material seems undeniable. This idea that knowledge without application is useless. It's not hyperbole. It's just
Fundamentally true.
the real power, the real value isn't in just hoarding facts. It's in actively transforming that knowing into actual results. In a way, it's the shortcut to being truly informed, because it forces you to see how things work in the real world.
That's it perfectly. Knowledge really ignites. It comes alive when it starts guiding decisions, when it becomes a skill you can use without thinking, and when you wield it to solve tough problems and innovate. It's the doing, fueled by the knowing. That's what creates progress, efficiency, real value. And this really brings up an important point for you, our listener.
Right. For all of us, individuals, companies, whole societies, building a culture where we actually use our knowledge practically. It's not just nice to have. It feels essential now, right, for dealing with the complexity of the 21st century.
Absolutely essential.
So the final thought to leave you with, based on everything we've discussed today, what specific piece of knowledge, big or small, are you going to put into action this week?